Hi everyone, welcome to yet another review from Careful Optimist. My name is Emeko Kereke. So, today we are going to be doing a comparison between two earbuds. On one hand is Apple's newest earbuds, the AirPods Pro 3. And on the other hand is the flagship premium earbuds from Bowers Wilkins, the Pi8. So, with no further ado, let's get right into it. Apple released the first AirPods Pro in 2029, their first real foray into active noise cancellation and transparency. The success of the AirPods Pro wasn't just about technology, it was also about timing. Now, if you remember, these were the earbuds that accompanied many of us into the lockdown and through the COVID period. The AirPods Pro quickly became part of the everyday, not just a device for listening to music, but a companion for nearly every mundane activity involving sound. Zoom calls, workouts, online classes, and even moments of silence. Then, in 2022, Apple released the AirPods Pro 2, which marked a real leap because they introduced the new H2 and H1 chips, improved the ANC dramatically, and refined every little feature that had already made the AirPods Pro a cultural staple. It was also the moment Apple began to lean more deeply into what they now call computational audio, that is, using processing power to shape sound in real time. Fast forward to September 2025, we now have the AirPods Pro 3, the model that I will be reviewing today. Apple calls this a generational leap. Same familiar shape, but re-engineered from the inside out with smarter sensors, better fit, and features that start to blur the line between earbuds and wearable technology. On the other hand, Bowers Wilkins, the English company, a venerable name in the world of high-end audio engineering, has been crafting sound for more than 50 years. Known for their legendary loudspeakers used in Abbey Road studios, they entered the wireless earbuds space relatively late compared to other big players in the game. This first step came around, I think, 2019 and 20 with the Pi3 and Pi4 models, early experiments that hinted at what was to come. But it was only recently that we began to take Bowers Wilkins seriously as not just another earbud manufacturer, but a company capable of redefining what portable audio can be. Their flagship model, the Pi8, which is the one I have here, is a strong testament to that ambition. With its carbon cone drivers carried over from their flagship PX8 headphones and innovations such as audio retransmission, which lets you stream audio directly from in-flight entertainment systems or older devices via the case, Bowers Wilkins achieved something remarkable. That is a blend of audiophile fidelity and everyday functionality. I'm reviewing these two earbuds side by side because both, in their own way, are future-facing, each signaling a different vision of what comes next for wearable sound technology and how we might soon relate to the devices that mediate our sonic worlds. Rather than dive into every little feature or firmware detail, I want to approach this comparison differently. There are scores of videos out there testing battery life, latency, or how these earbuds connect to your laptop and all of that. What I am interested in, however, is how these earbuds think, how their design philosophy shapes the way they sound, and how that, in turn, shapes our everyday experience with them. Because as we know, sound is not just an output, it's a tactile event. It has texture, space, and intention. Every engineering decision, from the type of driver to the tuning curve, reveals something about what the brand believes sound should feel like. So, in this comparison, I'll be focusing on four key aspects. One is design philosophy, that is, the mindset and aesthetic logic behind each earbuds. Two, sound signature, how that philosophy translates into what we hear. Then there is everyday usage, the ergonomics, comfort, emotional rhythm of living and moving with these earbuds. And then there is ecosystem and platform integration, how each brand extends this philosophy into its own operating system environment. Apple, for instance, designs from ecosystem outward. Everything orbits around seamlessness and predictability. Their sound tuning reflects that, balanced, adaptive, and almost invisible in its neutrality. Bowers and Wilkins, on the other hand, designs from sound inward. Everything starts with fidelity, a certain devotion to presence, depth, and warmth. The Pi8 embodies that ethos, even in the smallest details, from the driver housing to the acoustic venting. So, this review is less a spec sheet comparison and more of a conversation between two worlds. Apple's worlds of computational coherence, where design serves integration, and Bowers and Wilkins' world of analog devotion, where design serves immersion. Let's start with Apple. Apple's design philosophy has always been about reduction, removing the friction, removing thought until what remains is pure interactive tactile experience. In other words, Apple's products wants to connect the user to the medium of experience, taking the path of least resistance and doing so through elegance and functional simplicity in design. The AirPods Pro 3 continues in that trajectory. Every element is built around seamlessness. They don't demand attention, they dissolve into the flow of your day. From the outside, they look nearly identical to their predecessors, minimalist, almost austere. But that's intentional. The real design work happens beneath the surface, in the ergonomics, the adaptive algorithms, the microsensors that constantly adjust fit and sound. This is computational design as philosophy, technology that recedes to let experience come forward. In terms of sound, the AirPods Pro 3, just like those before, are designed first and foremost around spatial audio. The entire sound signature feels tuned to favor spatial rendering, a sense of immersion that prioritizes dimensional accuracy over sheer tonality. In this third generation, Apple accentuates the highs and subtly reinforces the lows, producing a fuller, more cinematic presence. The sound you get is detailed, and the bass of the low and the lower mid frequencies resolve quite well without sounding muddy in any way. Also, the timing is accurate across frequencies. However, the AirPods Pro could sound a bit too harsh due to the emphasized high frequencies, and this is especially noticeable in high volumes. Now, my educated guess, and this is just a guess, is that Apple's focus isn't purely musical, it is experiential. The AirPods Pro 3 are calibrated for spatial audio and Dolby Atmos content, where sound isn't just reproduced, it is placed, that is, positioned. So, movies, streaming shows, and Atmos master tracks reveal what these earbuds are meant to do, that is, to sculpt space with precision. But then, when precision is too much, it becomes clinical, mechanical. And that's a real downside to Apple's heavy handed manipulation of sound with algorithms, machine learning, and most recently, artificial intelligence. At the same time, there's a clear bias towards the voice spectrum. Spoken word content, podcasts, audiobooks, Zoom calls, voice notes are all accentuated and emphasized. This is a feature of the AirPods Pro and broadly Apple's approach to sound technology that is rarely discussed. In fact, in many of the videos, I hardly see anyone mention this. But it seems to me that this is very much part of what the Pro in the AirPods Pro really stands for. Also, it seems to me that these earbuds aren't just about listening, they're about productivity. But productivity at the cross point between the everyday and the professional. That is to say, where productivity sort of like seamlessly enters the everyday space. In many contexts, you can use the AirPods Pro as a tool, a device for audio monitoring, podcast editing, or voiceover work, even video editing, at least on a prosumer content creation level. So, at their core, the AirPods Pro 3 embody Apple's vision of, I would say, utilitarian sonic device, one that defines how a professional but everyday audio tool should sound: balanced, intelligent, and spatially aware. The AirPods Pro don't just play sound, they mediate your relationship to sound as a medium of experience in the everyday context. For Bowers and Wilkins, that's a different world entirely. So, where Apple designs for utility, Bowers and Wilkins designs for fidelity in sound. Their philosophy begins not with software, but with sound itself: the physicality of air, the resonance of space, the emotional gravity of tone. The Pi8 inherits this legacy directly from their studio monitors and the PX8 over ear line. You can feel it in its craftsmanship: the aluminum accents, the matte finishes, the deliberate weight. Everything about the Pi8 communicates material seriousness, an earbud designed as an instrument rather than a merely transmission device. And that difference carries straight into the sound. The Pi8, when it comes to sound, opens up like a room, expansive, articulate, deeply textured. For just a pair of tiny earbuds, the sound is surprisingly full bodied and well sculpted. And this is thanks to the 12mm carbon cone drivers, each carrying a dedicated amplifier, which gives sound a sense of dimensionality that's almost analog in feel. Bass is generous but disciplined. Mids have organic depth. Highs extend naturally without fatigue. It's not tuned for neutrality, it's tuned for emotion. And even as we speak, it still baffles me the level of precision I hear from such a small Bluetooth device, especially when I stream on high-res audio from an Android platform. Say I'm using like a Pixel phone or so. The Pi8 is cinematic in its own way, not through spatial computing, but through acoustic staging. It doesn't place you in the sound. It lets the sound unfold around you, and it is organic in its sound sculpting. That organic intelligence is felt on the level of one's sonic emotional body. I listen to Wanna Be Starting Something, streaming it on resolution via Earbuds, and the ingenuity of that collaboration between Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones came alive in my veins like never before and left me with a lot of goose pimples. Oof. If Apple's sound feels like a clear window pane, clean, efficient, invisible, Bowers and Wilkins' sound feels like the air inside a concert hall. Both are masterful, both achieves the pristine quality of sound through their devices, but they serve very different ideals. Apple's world is one of integration, detail, clinical precision. Bowers and Wilkins' world is one of immersion, texture, and craftsmanship of sound. In everyday use, AirPods Pro takes the lead by miles. When it comes to noise cancellation, Apple continues to define the standards. The company claims the AirPods Pro 3 delivers up to 4 times better noise reduction than the original model. And it shows. Since 2019, no earbuds or headphone has managed in any way to consistently unseat Apple's dominance in the ANC space. Beyond noise cancellation, Apple has also refined the fundamentals. Fit is dramatically improved thanks to the redesigned foam-infused ear tips and refined venting that makes long wear surprisingly effortless. And on top of that, Apple has introduced genuinely practical additions: a built-in heart rate monitor, live translation, and more advanced adaptive audio modes. But all of this rests on Apple's proprietary H2 chip and its tightly woven ecosystem. Inside that ecosystem, The experience feels frictionless, a seamless dance between devices. Yet outside it, particularly for those who use Android, the AirPods Pro 3 becomes almost rudimentary. Without Apple's computational audio framework, these earbuds revert to the limited AAC codec at roughly 256 kilobytes per second. Now, in that context, the sound loses its nuance. Many of the advanced features disappear. In other words, outside Apple's world, the AirPods Pro 3 sounds no better than an average pair of €30 earbuds. Although features like ANC and phone calls work, they lose the support of the Apple's ecosystem. On the other hand, the Bowers Wilkins Pi8 truly shines in the Android ecosystem, especially in sound quality. Equipped with Qualcomm's Snapdragon sound platform, the Pi8 supports the full suite of aptX Adaptive, aptX HD, and aptX Lossless codecs. This means that when you stream from services like Tidal or Cubose, you are hearing near lossless audio wirelessly with a warmth and dynamic range that the AirPods Pro simply can't replicate outside Apple's bubble. Bowers Wilkins does not rely on tricks and gimmicks. Its focus is on fidelity, a pure, direct line between source and ear. In this sense, its ANC, while decent to some extent, is modest compared to Apple's class-leading implementation. But that's not the point. The Pi8 prioritizes sound over silence. Then there's one of its most unique features, the audio retransmission. The Pi8's charging case can act as a mini DAC and transmitter. Connect it via USB-C to any analog or digital audio source, an airplane entertainment system, a laptop, or even an iPhone, and it transmits high-resolution sound wirelessly to the earbuds. This feature was designed for travel, but it transcends that context. It allows the Pi8 to bypass Apple's Bluetooth limitations entirely and deliver high-res playback even on iOS devices. So we put together a dedicated video on the Pi8's audio retransmission that you can find somewhere up the screen. While Apple's brilliance lies in integration and everyday intelligence, Bowers Wilkins' genius lies in autonomy and purity, a design that trusts the ear more than the algorithm. Now, before I end this video, here are some considerations. The AirPods Pro 3's sound quality, among all the elements we've discussed, is still heavily dependent on fit. Apple knows this, which is why it now includes up to 5 different ear tip sizes. So I strongly suggest that you try them all to find the one that strikes the right balance between comfort, seal, and soundstage for you. A proper fit transforms the experience from a flat, underwhelming sound to a surprisingly spacious one. Also, finding the right fit will help you to, figure out the ratio between, too much bass and too much highs, because this is also very, very important. There seem to be a lot of under the hood improvements that Apple has made to the AirPods Pro that makes it ever more seamless and intuitive. For instance, I noticed that when you have the earbuds out of the case, say for instance, it fell off your ears while you are sleeping or so, the battery is not draining. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for the Pi8. The battery drains fast when you forget it or put it somewhere. That said, I cannot end this review without noting that while I appreciate the AirPods Pro for what they are, Apple could have done better, at least for this iteration. For instance, their continued insistence on limiting Bluetooth codecs to AAC feels increasingly dated, especially in 2025, when even mid-range earbuds now support high bitrate and lossless codecs. Likewise, Apple could have taken inspiration from Bowers Wilkins and reimagined the case so that it's not just a charger, but as an active component, perhaps even a DAC, as Bowers Wilkins has done with the Pi8. So what's the verdict? Well, if you care deeply about sound fidelity and you are not tethered to the Apple ecosystem, the Bowers Wilkins Pi8 is your best bet by far. It's honest, full-bodied, and engineered for people who listen with attention. If, however, you are deeply embedded in the Apple ecosystem If your daily reading moves between iPhone, iPad, name them, then the AirPods Pro 3 remains the most effortless and intelligently integrated choice. And it will just fit right in. But if you can live without all the ecosystem driven conveniences and what you really want is pure sound, then the Pi8 will serve you beautifully. As for me, I'll be holding on to my Pi8 for the joy of unadulterated sound. The AirPods Pro 3 are a wonderful caveat, an impressive tool for everyday life, especially because I'm also in that Apple ecosystem. But the Pi8 for me is where sound becomes an experience again. So that's it. Those are my thoughts. What about you? Do you own the Pi8? Have you recently purchased the AirPods Pro 3? Let us know what you think. Leave a comment below. Let's make this a conversation, not just a review. In any case, thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.